All right, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the Dolby Atmos system that I just finished installing at my house. We have Ableton Live that's going to be running the multi-track, also doing the Atmos panning itself with that plugin right there. It's also doing synchronization to Pro Tools on the same machine to record the re-renders, but more of that in a second. Audio gets out of Ableton Live via the Dolby audio bridge, and it ties into the whole system via Waves LV1 via its own driver. We can use that as basically LV1's the highway, and it just taps into it. So we go over to the patch page, and we're going to patch device to device. We're going to take the Dolby audio bridge. We're going to patch it directly to the Mac Pro that's running the Dolby Atmos renderer on another machine. We're going to send it to that renderer via SoundGrid on this page here. So we have 128 channels. We patch all those directly to the renderer themselves. So it's basically a pass-through from Ableton to the renderer via LV1 SoundGrid. Cool stuff. So now we go over to the renderer here, and you can see that its audio input device is Wave SoundGrid and its output device is Wave SoundGrid. We are syncing via LTC timecode that's running from Ableton via the Atmos generator. It's receiving that LTC on input 128 via the Wave SoundGrid driver. Our frame rate's 24 frames per second, which is set in Ableton as well. So we're doing that. And then we got a 9.1.4 speaker system set up, which starts routing out of the renderer to channels 50 through 63 on SoundGrid. The re-renderer channels are 65 through 126, and our headphone monitors are on 127 and 128. This goes out of the renderer via the Waves SoundGrid driver back to LV1. So we have our different re-renders here. On our re-render page is 65 through 100. We are in real time printing a 7.1.4 re-render, a stereo re-render, a binaural re-render, and a 9.1.6 re-render via output 65 through 100 via SoundGrid. That travels out of the renderer back to LV1, and that shows up on these channels here. So in the mixer itself, I bring back those different options. I have the speaker options, I have the re-render 7.1.4, 9.1.6, I have the binaural and the stereo re-render all coming into the mixer. From there, I'm able to do my bus compression or my different speaker EQ and things like that. They come up here in stereo pairs. Left, right, center, LFE, left surround, the right surround, the rear surrounds, the top front, the top rear. I can blend things or do something differently before they are printed into Pro Tools as official re-renders. So I can do that for the 7.1.4. This is for the 9.1.6. Also for the binaural and stereo. If I want to just do my normal bus compression stuff like I would on my stereo mix, I could add it here before it's printed into Pro Tools. Then it goes to Pro Tools here. And like I mentioned earlier, there's this plugin over here called Live MTC Bridge, which basically sends MIDI timecode out of the AIC driver that's native here in OS X. So you go to Audio MIDI setup in your MIDI page, and you'll see the IAC driver. You just enable that, and then that becomes an option in Ableton to be able to use as a MIDI device to send to and from Ableton. So the IAC driver is the device destination for the multi-port out of the live TC bridge. You go over to Pro Tools, you go over to Peripherals, and you go to Synchronization. We'll say the MIDI time code reader port is that IEC driver bus 1. And we go to machine control and we say MIDI machine control remote enable. ID 127 is pretty good. We just use that as the default. You then go over here to your top of your transport and you turn on this little clock thing. That's the LTC MIDI machine control device. So it's going to be waiting for a signal. So once you go over to Ableton, you press play in Ableton. It catches up with it. And there you go, synced up. That way, in one motion, whenever Ableton is playing, that timeline in Ableton is the same in Pro Tools. The time code position is the same in Pro Tools as it is in Ableton. You're also getting all the re-renderers, the binaural, the stereo, and I'm also printing the time code in there here. So there's my nice bowl of food. Yay. But time code, stereo, binaural, 9.1.6, 7.1.4, print it all at once. There you have it. That's pretty much the system. And then next is, you print the Atmos file. You go new master file, hit whatever as the name, and then you could put your in and out marks where you want the renderer to record, because you have to record basically all the metadata of the movements that come from Ableton on this panner. It has to get into a file, so you have to record it on that machine, and it records the audio and all the metadata for the objects. And you go to export audio. You can export those different options there. And I think the MP4 is the preview, like that's your quality control. So I'm excited to see how that all comes together. I haven't gotten to that step yet, but hey, I got the workflow down and it feels good.